Yeah, let's take a sec to do a little attunement together. So just coming into presence, into the cells, just feeling what the vibration is inside today. Where do you first notice? Do you associate more with the mental body or the astral body? Does your physical body have your attention? Or are you swimming in those higher frequencies in the causal body or the Buddhic body that connects us all? Just want you to notice that inner light emanating from every cell of your being. This beautiful luminescence that contains every spectrum of light, visible and invisible, that exists. And it's the invisible light that we're all working to remember. The invisible light that illuminates our heart, illuminates our soul. And that invisible light is in everything. That same invisible light in me is in you. And the origin of that light comes all the way back billions of years ago from the Big Bang. So, through the holographic nature of the universe, you can sense in a very real way the stars in the sky inside of our being. Just focusing on the energy of the star that we call Sirius. This is the energy that's so alive right now as we approach Lions Gate on 8/8. It's pure, bright light. As we're also in Leo, just allowing that illumination through your body, allowing yourself to know and taste what much of the world has forgotten. Finally, just bringing your awareness to your third eye. And in that third eye, I want you to take a moment and just envision a whole world, a world of peace, of love, of abundance, a world unified, connected. led by our great mother. Just allow her arms to wrap around you. Coming into the very center of your being. Just ask for divine love, support, and guidance as we connect today. Show us the way. Help us to see and hear and know. Help us to let down the walls and be willing to show up in service with love. We thank you. Just beginning now to come back into your local space, into your body, moving the body in whatever way feels good. And when you feel ready, you can gently open your eyes. Okay. Um, so as I have been doing, I'm just going to reference the agreements that are in the Synarchy. There's a course that's called Start Here. And in that Start Here course is the container agreements. If you haven't had a chance to check those out, I'd really appreciate it if you did. I think most people here have done that. This is like I said, our OG squad here. Um, Confidentiality wise, outside of those agreements, my intention today is to post this wisdom call. This is the one that is going to go up. So if we get into anything today that you do not want going on YouTube, just let me know and we will cut that chunk out for you so that you can use this, because that's ultimately what it's here for. Upcoming stuff, just announcements wise, is really quick today. We've got Marcy is doing the family constellation call, the Gene Keys family constellation call. That's on Tuesday. So on the 12th. And I'm telling you, having experienced that a few times with Marcy, it is worth your time. It is a beautiful experience. Even if you're not the one that ends up having your profile constellated, it really is a powerful experience. And I don't know how many people we're going to be able to kind of move through. Every process is very different. So it's hard to say. And then I just posted our second member led call is in the Synarchy now. So I just posted about it. It's on the calendar already. So it's a workshop called Frequency First. There's a guy that I met before the Synarchy existed months ago. His name's Steven Selly, and he kind of works with people in the energy space and helping people to prioritize their energy and setting energetic boundaries and reconnecting to life force energy and joy and fulfillment. So the session is why energy comes before action, uncovering hidden stories, blocking your expression, simple practices to shift your state, how to hold energetic boundaries, and designing an energetic frame for showing up fully. So if that speaks to you, that's going to be the following Tuesday after Marcy. So that's the 19th at noon. So you can get that on your agenda too. And that's all I've got as far as announcements go for today. As far as the call today, I was considering what I wanted to do, and where I landed essentially is I'd like to largely have it open, but with a kind of discussion point, which is the pearl. Val, to answer your question, Marcy's call will likely be approaching 2 hours if I had to guess, but no promises on that. And Stevens is 1 hour. Um, yeah, so the pearl, and I don't mean the sphere of the pearl, I mean the pearl sequence at large. Of course, we could dive into the sphere of the pearl if we so choose. And also, I'm open if this group, as I've said, has been doing this thing for a while, and so if we go in a different direction, I'm okay with that too. But largely because I'm really digging in on the overlap now between spirituality and business, and actually have come into an understanding that there is no difference between the two. Like that split has been completely healed, if you will. So I'm feeling more called to the pearl than I am other parts of the profile. But with that said, of course, I can do a broad overview. We can talk through the spheres, we can talk through the pathways. But I just kind of want to open it up there and see if anybody's got any questions on their pearl, questions on their gene keys in their pearl, just anything in that realm. Let's open it up there and see where that gets us. Yeah, go ahead, Sonia.
Is the pearl always a duplicate of another key we have somewhere else?
No.
Oh, does it mean something if we have it somewhere else?
So that's a really common question. I'd say it's at least equally as common, if not more common than not to have a duplicate gene key in your profile. So it's not something that is like extremely rare or anything like that. Like it happens pretty consistently among people that I've talked to. I've heard Richard talk about this before, and his advice essentially is like, well, that's a key that you should probably pay a little bit of extra attention to. That's really all he has to say about it is it doesn't mean anything particular. It's not like a specific thing other than I maybe should pay a little bit more attention to contemplating. And then also, so like Lota, who is here right now, has a gene key twice in her profile. And we were kind of talking about what that might represent or what that might mean based on the position of where it is. And I also have that. So I've got 56 in my radiance as well as 56 in my core,
In your
which is
core.
which is
Is
just
the core the pearl? No, the core is
no, core
vocation.
core is the same as vocation. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's interesting to me that like when I think about those two spheres, in order for me to really shine in the world, right, which is my radiance, my light, my aura, the thing that draws people to me, that makes me irresistible, that dictates my vitality, my energy, the stuff that Steve's going to talk about in a couple weeks. I believe, based on my contemplation, is there's no way for that to happen in my case without having transmuted that same energy at the deepest part of my being, which is in the core. In other words, my radiance in my case is locked away until I did the deep work of transmuting my core wound, which makes sense also with my profile type as a 6-2. Right, it's going to take quite a bit of time for these things to move through a process. And so it makes sense that my radiance doesn't fully come online until later in my life. And that makes sense because it's going to take me time to move through transmuting the sphere of my vocation. So you can kind of think about it in that way too, is like, where's the repeat for you, Sonia? Like you have it in your
It's funny
pearl.
because it's the I have it in the pearl, which you say shine. Well, no, or is what you said shine. I have it in radiance and I have it in the pearl.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So in your case, interesting. The pearl, like the sphere of the pearl itself, really is something that is like a transcendent gift from the divine. The pearl is what happens when all the other aspects of our life are in balance, and that's the kind of why the star pearl exists. That's kind of the teaching behind the star pearl. Is in the star pearl, you don't even work on the sphere of your pearl. You don't pay attention to it at all. You work on all the spheres around it, and as the frequency raises through those spheres around it, it naturally raises the frequency of your pearl, which is just an average of all of the frequencies of the spheres surrounding your pearl. So in your case, you've got this transcendent gift that is going to be given to you. I almost see it in your case as the opposite, where your radiance will shine brightly first. And then from that shining, the pearl can begin to form and can begin to come online for you in your life. But that's just how I see it. Like you really got to sit with what those spheres represent. And if you're not sure, we can get into that and kind of try and break apart what that might mean for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Other pearl questions or pearl wisdom we got going this morning or this afternoon or evening, wherever you are in this great world? Go ahead, Jan.
I just like the idea of the pearl and the prospering, so the broadness of it, in relationship to what I shared last week when I also shared about the contemplation, but then specifically that the wheel of life. So when you think about the pearl, it is about our whole life. So it's not just business, it's not just career,
For
it's
sure.
everything we do, it's relationships, it's personal development. But I think it's interesting when we want to make that as whole as possible, right? When we really want to prosper, that's what it's really all about. That's where the other angles kick in.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we can prosper in all of the areas in our life if we do what you just said. If you have your life's work, you do the inner work first, or the inner journey, and then you bring it back into the world. Whether you do that straight through the reversal of the activation sequence, or first through the Venus sequence to decondition and then go into the Pearl.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing there. I think the other side is when you think about your core, which in my case is victimization and freedom, right? That can show up in any one of those areas of that wheel of life.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm a victim, or if I feel victimized and don't have the freedom in, for example, relationships, that may impact my career, which will impact my financials, right? Just as an example. So there's all of these things that are there together as well. And the same is true, I think, at least when I contemplate it right now, when I think about it, about culture, when you think about your tribe, your group of people, if you're not with the correct group of people for you, right, it's going to be challenging to prosper. You may not be able to fulfill your life's work. You may still be in your core wound instead of moving into your vocation, which will have its impact on your entire life. So I think it's interesting. And I think that's also what they did with the Star Pearl, is to bring it broader, right? To look at multiple areas of your life. But I think that big dot in the middle could also be a starting point when you literally do an assessment and say, hey, when I look at my life, am I prospering right now?
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, what does prospering mean for me? And if I want to prosper and I start looking at life's work or brand, if I look at culture, when I look at core and vocation, which of those three speaks to me the most right now in the sense of, and that's where something should change in order to be able to prosper, and then do the deconditioning route the other way around, right? I think that's one thing that showed up for me this week. With all of the pathways, there is a logical order, but it's funny when you do them in reverse order for all of them, including in the Venus sequence, just to see the connections there.
Yeah, totally changes what it feels like. That's for sure when you look at it in reverse. Yeah, what I realized with the Star Pearl is that I think it is born of an interesting conundrum that Richard found himself in. And this is totally conjecture, right? I have no idea if this is the case, but he often talks about the holographic nature of the universe, of course, but also of the profile, right? And when we say the holographic nature of things, what we mean is that every sphere contains every other sphere, right? And in a fractal way, it's turtles all the way down, if you will. It just keeps on going. You open one and they're all inside there, and you open another and they're all inside there. But I think people have a hard time making that connection. because of our left brain, because of wanting a pathway and wanting to see how everything is laid out. And so in the traditional golden path, the pearl was the last part of the golden path, right? We started the activation sequence, we go to the Venus work, then we go to the pearl. But because of the holographic nature, the Venus work and the activation work is already contained inside the spheres of the pearl, right? Like that is a part of this journey. And I think people maybe didn't realize that or don't want to accept that or whatever it may be. And so the star pearl is a way to bring components of the activation sequence and of the Venus sequence directly into developing the prosperity, right? So it almost like takes the holographic nature of this wisdom and puts it a little bit more front and center so that people have a deeper understanding. Like for the sphere of creativity, for example, like to me, that's intimately linked to the activation sequence work on like a really deep level. Same with the sphere of stability. Like that is really, really tied to what we would accomplish in the activation sequence. And then as an example, we've got the sphere of relating, which I'd argue is like a really a pull out from the Venus work. And not exactly, right? They're different components, but the Venus work is to help us in our relating, to help us in our relationships. And so I just find it interesting that and he says that, you know, like when he was introducing the star pearl, he talked about it being a transcendent fourth as opposed to like the next part of the golden path. So it's not like the star pearl is like the thing that you do after the pearl. It's almost like it's like its own version of this work. And I think you can do both. You can do either, but there's lots of ways into this wisdom. But I definitely think that's good to know and realize. And it speaks to what I was saying before is like the business work really and ultimately is the spiritual work. They are one and the exact same. Which
I'd
means
like to share
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Val.
on top of what you just said. Yeah, I've been working very diligently in the last year or more, maybe even 2 years, to really focus on trusting myself, moving forward in a spiritual way with my work, you know? And you have helped so much with that, Jay. And I just want to say thank you so much because this has really helped, like huge, huge. But last week I went on this Love Light retreat. It was all a group of us to support each other. And there were 3 days in a row where we did sweats, and each day it's 4 rounds. And I just prayed so deeply because if you remember, I talked about doing that apprenticeship with the Airbnbs, and you were like, apprentice? And I was like, maybe I should really think about that, And so I just did so much praying and so much deep work on these during these sweats. And man, it came to me, oh no, that's not my journey. That's me being in my head, thinking about the money and not leading with my heart when everything comes, whether it's money or not. Like I have tomorrow or on Saturday, I have my friend coming doing free breath work for us, and we're going to do a breath work for nothing. You know what I mean? It's just beautiful. And she's the one that got me into the gym. And then I'm at the gym yesterday. I just went in and there's a room there with all of these mirrors. And I'm like, oh my God, this is where I could film the bodywork stuff that I want to teach other people. I could film it with all of you know what I mean? So when you really go with your heart and you let that truth and authenticity of who you really are fit what you're doing, it's magic. It's just magic. Everything in life, work, life, it's all the same. Everything. It just blends and it's magical. So for me, my culture and my pearl are both 50. And that's corruption, equilibrium, and harmony, you know? And so I have to be in balance. I have to, I have to feel that balance, or I'm overworked and want to just retreat into my room and do nothing, you know? So I literally, since I've been back, I have crunched all of my body work days into 3 days only. And I have two of them I fill up first, so that the third one, if I don't fill it up, then I just get to be home. And I'm home, you know, 4 or 5 days a week with my mom and my brother and, you know, all of the beautiful things. So yeah. So thank you. And the balance has really come to me. And I can't thank you enough for what these calls have been and what this year, I think all of us who've been here fully understand the benefit that this has been to our entire community and the collective. So thank you so much, Jay. Really,
You're very welcome.
thank you.
Very
That's
welcome.
all.
Yeah, it's so another kind of thing that I realized as I've been thinking through the connection of these two worlds is like, if you are suffering from burnout, again, you're suffering from a spiritual problem. Like, it is not a nuts and bolts issue. Like, there's the reason that you're burnt out on some deep level is a lack of faith and a lack of trust that things are going to pan out in the way that you think they need to go. And that's another part, right? Is you think they need to go that way. It's just such a deep connection that when healed just leads to such an intense opening of energy, because the shifting of like this part of my life into this part of my life completely disappears. And that has a super high cost anytime we're changing the mask, quote unquote, that we have. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could speak into a little bit, you know, as we start to see some of these things and we're starting to see how those two things align, like the spirituality and the business, and we're doing the contemplation, all of a sudden we're left with the realization that we now need to make some of those decisions to where we want to move towards alignment, right? So it's almost like people are used to us by us fitting in their mold, but now it's like we're seeing different things about ourselves and realizing different things about ourselves. And it's like now we have to knock into other realms to find that alignment, or like other arenas or a different job or whatever. But it's almost like once you realize who you are, now you have to like try to fit yourself into other systems so that they can understand some of the value that you have, especially like maybe if you don't have the track record or the accolades or the LinkedIn profile and stuff like that. So I was just wondering if you could speak into that. Like, what are some just great first moves for when you're starting to make that aligned action in the you that you know that you are, but maybe other people haven't seen that yet?
Yeah, totally. Great question, dude. I mean, the first thing is starting to plug yourself into places that understand the new version of you.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's like anything, as you kind of engage in whatever direction you're going to head, you're going to need relationships that are supportive of that direction. And most of the time, the people that are going to be supportive of that direction are people that are in similar spaces and have a similar understanding and a similar mindset to you. So being in communities like this, going locally to where you are, to different, whether it's breathwork stuff or meditation workshops, or, you know, as different spiritual teachers come through and hold different things, like just starting to rebuild the network with some new people. Because, you know, like in the Bible, right, when Jesus goes to Nazareth, nothing works, right? Like it's he has no power there because they don't believe, because they see him as the carpenter and as Joseph's son. And there will be certain people that are willing and able to accept the new version of you. So I'm not saying that like everyone in your former life is going to go away, but you do have to be willing to let the
That
people
wouldn't upset me.
we got to be willing to let some of the people that no longer align to who you are, let them filter themselves out. And it'll be this steady process of like the old versions and the old interests, just, you know, like Instagram algorithm style, all that stuff begins to fall away and the new algorithm begins to show up and really engage. So really the big question that I encourage you to ask yourself is, what do I want? You know, like that's really where this all needs to begin. It's like, what do I want in my life? And most of the time, honestly, man, it's one of three things. Like people either want more money, they want more time, or they want more enjoyment. You can pretty much put everything that you want into one of those three buckets. And as you kind of go through this restructuring, you got to know which of those things are your North Star and like which are you moving towards. And that's just a really easy decision filter. Like everything that comes to you, you ask yourself the question, is this going to bring me more time or time freedom, or is it going to take this away from me? Because if you don't run it through that filter, if you don't choose one of those things that are important to you, a choice will be made for you. And it's going to be what other people want for you, or it's going to be, you know, doom scrolling. It's going to be what Instagram wants for you. So just really kind of deciding there, and then from that place, figuring out like, what is the one thing that is going to give me the most leverage in this transition, like bottleneck analysis, if you will, and like being willing to focus on that one thing. Like so many of us have shiny object syndrome, like where our awareness just wants to constantly bounce around. But I would argue that most of us know what the frog is in our life, right? Like what is the thing that we need to just swallow to get it done, because it is holding back a ton of potential energy. And lots of times that thing is really uncomfortable, or it's something that is going to require you to shift or change or pick up new skills or whatever. And so it's the thing that we avoid. It's the thing that we say, I'll get to that tomorrow. Meanwhile, we're just running around putting out the fires, like trying to make sure that the day keeps going. And then you're stuck in maintenance, right? Like if you're just tending to what comes up every single day, you're going to be stuck in a maintenance phase where nothing in your life is shifting. You're just Groundhog Day, the same thing over and over again. If we want growth, growth is a conscious choice. And the way that we choose growth is to choose what are the highest leverage things that I can work on every day. So that, I don't know if that answered your question. I kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but hopefully it was semi-helpful.
Oh, that's very helpful.
Cool. Thanks, man. Appreciate you. Welcome back.
Thanks, man. It was a blast.
Yeah, it's a wild time, that's for sure. What else, guys? Questions, comments on Pearl or Pearl sequence?
I'll throw something in.
Please.
Related to what I posted just a couple of hours ago, or just morning, I think, on school as well. It's interesting when Ryan, when you brought up this, what you leave behind and what you're moving towards. And I just noticed Val, your post in the chat, it integrates with past, present, and future. This morning I was playing with one of the things of human design that really caught my interest, that I think has a lot to do with my Pearl, at least, which is the 29, which has a lot to do with commitment, not half-heartedness, but commitment. And we had a conversation before the last 2 weeks ago when you had to go, Jay. We had a big conversation about commitment when you had to leave.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense of, so is it about committing to a particular thing, or is it about committing to the present moment? And what I found interesting, going back to what Ryan was saying just before as well, this whole thing, hey, you've been in a certain environment and now you're moving to another environment. I'm not going to ask you about your age right now, but if it's anywhere around the area of 42, this is an interesting time frame, right? You see, well, here we go. But the 42 is an interesting time frame from a human design perspective, because that's where you really start to feel the shift from your south node, your past, into your north node, what you are moving towards. And I just played with those nodes a bit this morning from a graphical perspective, a visual perspective, which you will see at school on the post that I shared, is literally having those two nodes. And then if you let them flow into each other, right, or over each other actually, and then see what type of shapes start to emerge. But it's funny when you then think about right now, in the present moment, what we can do when we commit to the now, we can learn from the past and we can dream about the future and hold it lightly. And I had a conversation with my wife just when I had created those images, and I said, so it's so funny when I look around me, and I've been there as well, and I'm shifting, I think, as we speak. I'm not there yet, but how much we either live in the past, right, which massively influences what we do right now because we still drag all of that stuff with us, or we are so darn worried about the future or expecting so much of the future that we're still not committed to the now. And I mean, it's hard to put percentages on it or stuff, but I love numbers, and I love the fact that we have 86,400 seconds in a day. And it would be interesting just to ask yourself, how much of those 86,400 seconds in a day do I actually still hang in the past? And how much of those seconds do I actually worry about my future? And how much of those seconds am I actually present in the now? Mm-hmm. Because this is where we can basically resolve whatever happened in the past, if that's useful for creating our future. And that's the alignment I'm thinking about more and more right now. Also in all of what I'm doing, including the coaching and everything, but it's the now. And it must be with my Pearl, with that 29 and the whole thing about half-heartedness, commitment and devotion. It is about what is happening right now. That's the only thing I can respond to. Right? I can dream about the most crazy future, but if I don't do anything about it right now, it's not going to work anyway. Mm-hmm. I just had a conversation before this conversation with somebody. She and I are both in writing mode right now. She is writing a novel. And it's funny when you stop that writing process because you're thinking about, yeah, but one day I have to find a publisher and an agent and the this and the that and and the whole thing starts to happen. And then we go back and literally say, well, what needs to happen first is writing that book. And then we start to look at what's difficult about writing that book. And one thing she shared with me 2 or 3 years ago when we started our conversations is that one day her parents said to her, don't go into the arts because you won't be able to make any money. Try a decent study. So that one line had been making her life difficult to actually say, I want to write a book just for the fun of writing it. And if there's going to be money, I'll see that later. But that past, present, future, and those nodes are just so interesting to look into.
Yeah.
I'll leave it here for now.
And I think devotion to the present moment is not for the faint of heart. I think it's easy to throw that out there. And I'm not saying that you do this, Jan, by any means, but I think it's easy to say, like, I'm going to be committed to the present moment. And there's one component to that, which is staying present, obviously, right? Like, we've got to develop the skills that we have to be able to stay present, to be able to not be distracted, and to actually be in a room with somebody, or to actually work on a deep work on something that is important to you, right? Like, we need that. And there's another part of present moment devotion, which is there are going to be many, 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 many times where you know exactly what you need to do in this present moment. And it is going to require an immense amount of courage and bravery and dedication and discipline in order to usher that thing out into the world, right? Time, you've got one of two ways that you can look at time. You can look at time as something that you are constantly battling against, something that is a scarce and limited resource that you are just trying to fit as much in as you possibly can, constantly running around with your hair on fire, trying to figure out how to make it all work. Or you can see time as pregnant potential, right? You can see every second of the day as something is wanting to be born in this moment, and it wants to be born through me, and it needs my hands and it needs my voice. These energies need us to make them manifest in the world. But oftentimes, in order to do that, it doesn't align to, like Jan was speaking to, the past versions of yourself, right? It's a new and scary thing. It's asking you to grow and change and evolve and to do something that makes you deeply uncomfortable. And unfortunately, I think most people, most of the time, are not willing to engage in what is being asked. And that, I believe, is the real work of us being here. Like that, I think, is the issue that I'm seeing time and again. It's not needing to know more. It's not wanting to understand the profile. It's not, it's none of that. It's being willing to take bold and courageous action. And that means letting go of what you were and letting go of what has happened. Because if you're focused on that, what you're going to tell yourself, because humans are pattern recognition machines, is the same thing's going to happen again. And every time that you think, why should I do this? Because the same thing is going to happen again. That is your shadow conditioning screaming at you, trying to keep you stuck in a position that you're in. Because just because something happened in the past doesn't mean it's going to happen that way again. In fact, more than likely, it will not happen that way again. There's a lot of randomness in the universe by design, I think. And then the other big part of being courageous in the present moment is letting go how other people perceive you. Because you're going to be asked to say things that are going to make other people uncomfortable. You're going to be asked to say things that, from a societal standpoint, might be like against the values or the morals of the society at large, but it's true for you. And so you have to be willing to honor that if that's what comes up in the present moment. Like it is one of the hardest things to do that I have found. Ryan, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak back into this because it's totally on point with what you guys are talking about. You know, what Jan was saying, to focus in the present. I want to add another layer to that. You know, the patterns and everything, but there's also feelings attached to the patterns that we might not even be aware of. So we could be aware of the patterns, but there's an actual feeling that we're looking for. And that was actually just revealed to me this past weekend. I was aware of everything, and I was even aware of the future movement, but there was a feeling that was attached to my past that I had zero awareness of until just this past weekend. And now that the feeling has gone, it's lifted. It was a heaviness, and I was used to it. So I lived with it, and I was just completely unaware of it. But now, since that's been revealed, like you said, Jay, this week has been extreme diligence and intention to recognize if and when that creeps back in again. So it's been a very, very like just a slow movement, but very intentional. And it takes a ton of focused intention and attention to live in the present. But yeah, so I just want to add that other layer to it. Sometimes it's like, yeah, I'm good up here, but we can actually be feeling it in our body, and just remember that there's multiple layers to us as well.
Totally. Yeah. Great reminder. And in the bolt work right now, that's really, we're kind of attacking things from multiple different angles right now. But one of the things that I keep kind of reminding them of or bringing them back to is like, there are very real stuck astral energies that are in your being. And until those stuck astral energies are processed and are dealt with, and there are numerous ways to do that, right? I'm not even going to get into it. There's lots of ways to move that energy, but until that happens, we're not even able to stay present in order to deal with all of these things, to be courageous in the present moment. Because what ends up happening anytime those astral energies get triggered is we go back to that age version of ourselves. And that's what we're responding from. And so it literally just makes it impossible. Let me just check out the chat here. We got a lot of chat activity going on. See what's up. Sonia, I think this was to you, Ryan. Meditation and speaking to my guides constantly and letting them know how I feel or what I think I need always brings the right people in situations. So yeah, a part of this is remembering, and this is for all of us, that this game that we're all playing, the find our place in the world and like make enough money to enjoy our lives, is a game of attraction, not a game of reaching. And I think that's where so many people, like, where it doesn't feel good when you see certain people, is that they're like just constantly reaching, trying to get people, because there's some level of distrust that the right people are going to be called in and drawn to you. And what I have found is, when you can get the internal state, and this is why it's tricky, it's like a chicken and an egg scenario, is like, you need to shift your state and then the external stuff starts to happen. And then the question comes, well, how do I shift my state if this is my life circumstance? And that's why this work is so difficult. And that's exactly what's being asked of you, is to shift your state regardless of your life circumstance. And I know how difficult that is, but I also know that it's possible because I've done it. Keisha figured out how to raise her hand. We're good there. Oh, that's what all the chat was. Just trying to get a hand raise. And then Val, yeah, let's give is George still here? Let's all give George a little round of applause for his video. Killed it, dude. Good job. I was so happy to see that you did that and posted it. So I'll circle back to you, George. I saw we got Keisha's hand up right now, and then we'll kind of swing back around. Go ahead, my dear.
Thanks, you guys. Figure it out. Yeah, speaking to the present moment, I created some structure in my life recently, this past week, like literally starting on Monday for the first time ever. And because I really prided myself on living in freedom in the present moment for so long, that I didn't realize that, and speaking to what Ryan was saying, I had no idea that there was this like my nervous system was so hijacked by this one thing, like I need to get more work done.
Yep.
Because like somebody asked me on the other day, like, well, what is it that distracts you throughout your day? And I was like, the sun can distract me. Like the sunshine and my dogs. It's like, and I felt like I've been so blessed and lucky to live with such freedom, but I didn't realize how, so I organized every day by the hour of what I was going to do. And then last night I went and taught a yoga class, which I've been teaching yoga for over a decade. And it was one of the most incredible classes that I have ever taught. And I realized after class that I really actually believe that, because that story was not that was not, I need to get more work done in my energetic field. It's almost as if I could hear my voice resonating. It could travel further because my nervous system was freed to actually just like, it was like this thing just like naturally happened where the entire room was like breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And I could feel it. And I had no idea that that wasn't happening before.
Mm-hmm.
until I created a little bit of structure in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. Structure is huge. Like we need some degree of structure for magic.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where a lot of people just sit back and wait for God to make something happen in your life. And God will make something happen in your life. And there needs to be a structure through which God can reach to you, right? Like there needs to be something manifest for things to be able to flow your way. and without that, we're just going to continue to be spinning our wheels over and over and over again. So the piece of work that I'm going to recommend, and I may have said it here, I may not have said it here, is it is worth it to track your time. If you have never done a time audit, I cannot tell you how valuable it is, because you can tell me what you care about until you're blue in the face. But if I look at what you do, I can tell you what you care about, right? That's what you actually care about. So there's a couple ways to do a time audit. There's an old school way, and then there's an app-based way. So the old school way is you can get out a piece of paper, or you can do this in a digital calendar as well, or in an Excel doc. And you literally just in 30-minute increments throughout your entire day, like you just put, like, let's say you get up at 6 a.m., you write 6, 6:30, 7, 7:30, 8, 8:30, 9, all the way down until you go to bed, let's say at 10 p.m. Then you set an alarm on your phone for every 30 minutes. And yes, it is annoying. I am not going to pretend that it's not a bit of a pain to do this. But each time that alarm goes off, you just write down what you did in that 30-minute block. And you do that for the entire day. And you do that, I recommend doing it at least 3 weekdays and at least 1 weekend day. Ideally, though, you do it a whole week. But if you can't get that done, then 3 and 1 is kind of minimum viable to have enough data here to be able to parse some things out. Alternatively, there's an app that's called Toggl, which is what I've used in the past. If you want to go the app route, Toggl is Toggl. And basically on Toggl, you can set up different like projects. So what you'll find as you do this time tracking is there's going to be things that consistently show up. And so in Toggl, you can set like cooking, and then you just flick cooking on. And then when you're done, you can just flick it off. Right. And so you end up with like these categories that makes it a little bit easier to, and then you don't need the 30-minute blocks. You just use Toggl each time you change activities. So that's an option also. And then at the end, you just look it all over and you're going to be mortified. At least I was mortified with how you're spending your time. It's pretty wild to see how much time we're not in presence, and we're doing things that we don't necessarily want to be doing, and that aren't moving us closer to the life that we're trying to bring into this world. Did you have anything else, Keisha?
I mean, yeah, mortified is a good word. Yeah. I truly had a moment where I was like, how the hell have I actually been surviving?
Yeah.
And so I have in my core, I have the 15th gene key, the shadow of dullness. And then I also have that in the stability in the pearl. Mm-hmm. And I think that's summarizes what I experienced in my yoga class, was that there is this dullness energetically about me that is very much more apparent than I realized, because of being so consumed by this underlying program in my mind that has been really holding me back. And that's the dullness is one that I had a really hard time understanding. And I don't think that I would have gotten it any other way other than to create this structure that in my mind, my whole life would have been it would have been dull. Like even hearing you explain that right now would sound so horribly boring to me in the past.
Me too, for sure.
But it's actually the thing that has really, truly, the gift is magnetism. And that was absolutely apparent in my experience last night. So it's totally reversed of what I thought it would be.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you don't know until you know. And the only way to know is to track. Like that's the reality, unfortunately. And I'm with you. I hate doing stuff like this. I really, really do not. It does not bring me joy. But I know this goes back to like being connected to your vocation. I know that in doing this, it's going to help me serve. And therefore, I can flip the script on getting it done because I know that it's part of my mission of being here. And so it's just something I got to do.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Cheryl, I see you. Sonia, I see you. Mary Alice, I see you. Before we go, I want to just kind of wrap up a couple of, actually, do I want to do this or not? No, I'll let you guys talk. So, Mary Alice, did you have something that was related to what Keisha said?
I just wanted to say one thing, and I have to drop off for a quick call at 1. So thank you for giving me a minute.
Yeah.
Oh my God, now I'm totally blanking. I just had it. It was just something you had said that I was like, oh my God, that's so perfect. Sometimes when I start, the rabbit hole is huge, and I know, like, we've had many of conversations, and for me, it's like, I start thinking of the 7 habits of highly effective people. I keep going back to like the urgent, not urgent, and it's really making the time for the things that I really want to be doing. And sometimes I have trouble really staying motivated on it. But one of the things, because it almost to me, it's like a whole new direction. Like when it was my career, it's like, all right, I know I need to like either excel at this job or my next job. And for me, I haven't launched into something yet. But one of the things that you just said that is really motivational for me is for us to provide service. It shows this level of like responsibility that it's like for us to actually provide the service that this world needs, we need to make time for it. And I think sometimes I get into my head about, and that's maybe more of like the ego thinking like, well, everything in my life is actually good. It's just not where I know I need to be.
Mm.
And so I like thinking of it as in like, I have a responsibility, and that's why you have to.
Yeah. Yeah. And this goes to like world thinking, and like, yeah, my life can be okay, but like, fuck, what's happening in Gaza right now? Like, there's so much more that needs to be done. Yeah. Thank you, Mary Alice. Have a good call. So Sonia, we'll come to you in a sec. Cheryl's hand was first, and then I'll come over to you, Sonia, if that's okay. Go ahead, Cheryl. You're still muted, my dear.
Just briefly, when you're talking about loving and hating what you do, I was really moved by the Gnostic Gospels and Jesus saying, "Do not that which you hate."
Mm,
So it's not a usual reference to Jesus that I'd ever heard.
no.
So, and that means do what you love,
Mm-hmm.
do not that which you hate. And so that's been very big in a mundane way in my life situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and trying to come to a decision about living where I am. So,
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you, Cheryl. Yeah, it's a fine line between, Campbell's follow your bliss and needing to do the things in our lives that we need to do to become the person that we need to be able to show up in the service that we know we're meant to have. And I'm constantly trying to find that right balance of keeping my energetic state where it needs to be while still understanding that there are steps in the process that I must walk through um, in order to fulfill my dharma here on this planet. And so I think there's a very big difference between like always do something that makes you happy and doing the thing that is going to help bring your vocation into this planet. And I think that's the right question. The caveat I have there is it's a prerequisite requirement to do the work so that you can feel on a deep level how the thing that you're doing, although it isn't your favorite thing, is part of your purpose of being here. Because without that, the energy just falls apart. Did you have something else to add, Cheryl?
Well, it's making me question my decision. So it'd be great. It's a very mundane thing. I live in a retirement community.
Hmm.
Thing is you go down for dinner, people. Well, I did it for 4 years, struggling with it because it's not my nature and to do that. 4 years using everything I could think to make it doable, including making it a spiritual practice.
Hmm.
And then something happened where I did not do well with a staff member, and I realized that was the stress that was led to this, and I really needed maybe to stop, which I did. And it felt like I had my life back, but I'm not sure if I was avoiding what I needed to do. So I guess it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah, yeah, and I'd encourage you, like it can be both,
Yeah,
you
yeah, try.
know,
Yeah.
like there doesn't need to be a hard line in the sand here where you're either the person that doesn't go or you're the person that does go. Like some days you might have an energy that you feel called to go or that it might feel okay to go, and then other days you might be in an energy that's like, no way, I'm not doing that, and it's okay to have both of those.
I was hoping for that, but I find I very rarely have the energy to go do that because I arrange it in a way that would be, yeah, so, but it's a good point. I'll try to be open to that energy, and
Yeah.
I do connection in other ways, but yeah, as I said, it's pretty mundane, but very took a lot of energy.
What is it about dinner that you don't enjoy?
Eating with all the people, the whole,
Yeah.
you line up in the hall and then you go and find a table you can sit at, and it's all it's like a schoolyard thing,
Mm.
it takes you back to those days.
Did you have a hard time at school?
Kind of, kind of. I've always been kind of hate to word the use the word shy, but I'm quite happy with my own company.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Do you feel lonely?
Generally no, but sometimes because the result of this action here, I never thought I would be living in I always thought I would never ever have to do this, but it's turned out with life situation with a cognitive problem to this was seemed like a proactive thing to do.
Mhm.
But I forget the question, Jay. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I was just asking you about kind of your history in school, and I'm just trying to get an understanding of like
Why
whether,
I'm comfortable not doing that.
yeah, and whether it's causing you to miss out on potential connection, and potential relationships.
Well, that's very interesting because that is the key thing. I've been doing connecting in other ways that
Hmm.
I enjoy, but it's interesting in this sort of a community which you never hear about. Like people say, long life, be in community, socialize, especially as you get older and so on. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more to it. But when I'm not going, it is true. It's going against the culture of the building.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And
So
that part of it, I could care less about, you know how I am on that side of things, like rules be damned. I'm fine with that. It's more, I care about you. I care about that you have the ability to connect with people, and that you, like, if you're doing it because it's a choice that like is something that is more true to you and who you are, I think that's totally fine. If you're doing it because you're uncomfortable, I want to challenge you on that, because I think it might be helpful. It might be a growth edge for you.
yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. Something I would rather not have to grow in that way. Yeah. Such a relief. It was like, oh, freedom.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
with actually liking being sick because that meant I didn't have to go, which
Mm,
that's a dangerous space to go into.
for sure.
Anyway, thank you for, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely something, if I were you, I would pay attention to
yeah,
and try and unpack it.
yeah, thanks, Jay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're welcome. Go ahead, Krista.
I just want to first I wanted to share something else, and then Cheryl spoke, and I sort of resonate with that. Cheryl, I live not in a seniors. There's just a lot of seniors around, and I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel like I was with my type of people. There aren't any artists around, no musicians, and and I've learned, I've been here for a year and I've struggled. And I realized that my being different is my way of serving, because I awaken in them something that they've never even thought of, like peace, or why are you focusing so much on the bad news? There's so much good news too. Like they get themselves into the really nasty head spaces. And I actually just go into my space, and it's nice here. It's my little sanctuary. But what I wanted to share, it might help. I'm struggling too, but I really feel that I trust that I'm in the right place, that there's a reason why I am here now. Anyway, I just wanted to share, because I was studying. We're doing an art project tomorrow with some other Gene Key people, and we're going to draw the SQ of our mothers. So what I did is I went back into I'm still in the Venus sequence. Like Jan said, I went forwards and now I'm going backwards again. But I find as I'm going backwards, I'm understanding on a deeper level, and it's just so amazing. So I found this, and I've shared it with my daughter. I love despite of what you think, ecstasy is not an extreme state of joy. It's the result of sadness and joy making love inside of us. And that's from Richard Rudd in the Venus sequence under the SQ. Mm-hmm. And like we're always wanting to control everything, and everything has to be just the way we want it to be, or what we think or believe that it has to be just so. And as I grow older, I'm realizing that it was always just the way it was supposed to be, and it was just me understanding what it was trying to teach me. Mm-hmm. So I had a business, and I had it very structured, and I had, I only had 5 employees, but that was enough, and a sick mother and a single mom. And it had to be structured, but even that exhausted me. Like I was totally fried all the time. But in looking back, I have the 40, it makes sense. That's what I do, But I was in it with my whole heart. And from that experience, if I had known then what I know now, this is just what I want to share. If you follow your passion, which I did, I was a passionate leather worker, orthopedic shoemaker. Like I wanted to work with leather, and I wanted to create, and I wanted to deal with people because I love people. So I had a shop, and I created things, and I sold them wholesale and retail, and people came from far. I was the fish lady, made things out of tanned fish skin. So, big deal. But I came to Canada from Germany with $3,000, and I created all that by just following my heart. So there's something about trusting in what you're feeling, what your passion is. Things come up, you meet somebody, they give you the next step. You can't plan these things. So I don't know if that helps any, but I love that joy and sadness are making love inside of me. Isn't that awesome? Be ecstatic in your life. Be alive. Do it all. Make mistakes. Don't try to figure it all out. Don't be in your head. Be in your heart. Mm-hmm. That's all I've got to say.
That was plenty. We're gonna take a pause after that one.
All right.
And we're gonna allow that to soak in, because that was a lot of wisdom. a lot of embodied wisdom. Let's just take a minute. You know, all of the teachings and all of the words and all of this here week after week, all of it points to what Krista just said. Like that's the punchline. If you can do what you love, it's going to work. And it's going to work in ways that you cannot possibly plan for. So stop trying to fucking figure it out and just do it. And you can look at Krista as an example. You can look to me as an example. Like we're doing it. Man, that was really awesome, Krista. Thank you. And yeah, ecstasy has a component to it of understanding. Actually, it's tied intimately to time and what we've been talking about. It has a component to it that you're never going to get that moment back again. Ever. Like that sunset, that sunrise, that hug, that I had a piece of writing not too long ago that I called The Last Time, that was about me carrying my daughter upstairs and realizing that there was a last time. Like I don't do that anymore, right? There was a last time that I carried her upstairs and I didn't know that it was the last time. And God, if I knew it was the last time, I sure as hell would have been a lot more present when I was doing it. You know, and we never know when these last times are. And so that's why it's so important to be present all the time. God forbid, it could be the last time that you see somebody in your life. And if you approach life with that level of reverence and that level of ceremony and intention, your wife will be different overnight. I mean that, overnight. Go ahead, Jan.
Go after the point. Go ahead, Jan. Where do you pick up there? Now, I was going to say something to Cheryl, and I'll get back to that in a moment. But Krista, it's interesting. The words you used were actually very much related to what I wanted to share with Cheryl as well. When you were talking about the thoughts we have, but then also the feeling, and it actually it resonates with George and your story about getting the stuff out there and the dream. I think for many of us, at a certain point in time, our dreams were squashed, right? Somewhere in the past. And the big question is, what was that dream and how do you bring it back? And I think for Krista, when you were talking about your dream, that's clear. The leather and everything, you enjoy doing that and you do it from the heart. What was interesting, what you brought up was first the thinking and then the feeling. And that's the thing I talk a lot about. I'm preparing for a workshop in Germany. Interesting to hear that you're from Germany, Krista, but I'm preparing for a workshop in Germany. And I just suggested to the CEO that in this 3-day thing we're going to be doing, I want his people to think about what they think and feel all the time, because we all experience things differently. And that's what I wanted to share with Cheryl. It was interesting when you started your conversation, and again, this is just an observation, right? Let me put that up front. You started like, well, I didn't really enjoy eating downstairs. And then specifically when that thing happened with one of the staff members. And I was like, that's interesting. That's an incident. You could do something about it. But then you said, and it reminded me too much of school. And I said, hey, and I thought, hey, that's interesting. That's the second thing. And then Jay started talking about the school thing, right? What do you remember of that? And what I wanted to share with you, it might be interesting for you the next time you go downstairs for dinner and you start to get that uncomfortable feeling, right? The moment you're actually walking in there, like, okay, now I have to line up and get something to eat and find a place to sit. When that whole thing starts to happen, is to take a little step back and observe your thoughts. And really say, all right, so when I'm about to do this, what am I really thinking right now? Is it about standing in line? Is it about having that plate? Is it about needing to find a seat? Is it about that staff member? So whatever shows up. But then do the next thing, which goes back to what Krista just said as well. And what do you notice in your body? Right? The moment you're getting in, is it something in your throat? Do you want to speak up? Is it something in your belly? Is it a tension in your shoulders? And once you have that feeling, allow it for about 30 seconds. Because most of the time we're avoiding, we're turning around like, I don't want to feel this. I mean, forget about it. I'm not going to have this dinner here because I don't want to feel this, right? That's the easy way. And I'm not saying the other way is easier, but for 30 seconds, allow it. And then as you do that whole process, see if a memory shows up to something that you've experienced before where you had that same feeling. Because when you described it, my big question mark was, is it the staff member? Or is it actually the school situation, which has been there for a long time, which has just been simmering underneath, which you may potentially be able to, or may potentially, most probably will be able to resolve looking back at it and use some post-processing approach to say, I want to get rid of this stuff.
Yeah. It's actually more of a family thing. And the feeling is fear. So thank you. Yeah. That's sort of what I tried to do before. Yeah. Around being able to do that. So yeah, carry on.
So find somebody that you feel safe with whom you can share this in a safe space, right? If needed, make sure there's somebody around you in that room with you when you do this. But there are ways of actually processing this. And it's interesting how it started with a staff member, then it was school, and now it is a family thing.
Oh yeah. And I actually apologized to the staff member, but she reported me to the council, and there were repercussions from that, which were of a shaming nature. It was quite shaming. So I kind of lost heart in being here and all of that, which I had before tried to contribute in different ways. So it was quite a profound effect on me. Yeah, so that's very true, what you're saying. And interestingly enough, I have an appointment with someone I'm in the mystery school, which is another group, and someone is offering free internal family systems sessions. And I'll have a second one tomorrow. So that's an interesting synchronicity, isn't it?
Wonderful.
Helpful synchronicity, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, Cheryl, I know you said that this is a small thing. I do not get the feeling that this is a small thing for you.
No, actually, it's not. I say
Yeah.
because to many people it would be, well, what's the problem? You know, lots of people go down and sit and chat and have a great time, and it's their social time. Not so for me.
Sure. Yeah. This is definitely worthy of your time and attention and awareness for sure.
Yeah.
Juan.
Thank you. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to add something neutral around this. I'm resonating with you, Cheryl, and it reminded me of a resource available in the genekeys.com webpage when you already have your account set up and you can take a look at your hologenetic profile, and you can click on the spheres. So I got to an audio. I think there's a button there where, for example, it was in the Pearl, I guess. In the Pearl, I'm guessing, but somewhere in those spheres in the Pearl sequence, in which I found an audio, I was like hoping to get some maybe description of the sphere, but um, I got I got to an audio that's some kind of a contemplation of recorded by Richard that's about lighting up a fire. I don't know if any of you guys have heard it, and
I have. Yep.
it's very very interesting. It's like a 20-minute journey, which starts with like it sets you back on a time where humans didn't communicate with words, but more like intuitive signals, like mind was like mostly just for that, and you were like in tune with nature, some kind of yeah, like very 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 old times, uh before civilization, the very start of it.
Mhm.
And I really recommend you guys, if the point here is you light the fire, you first notice these little sparks inside you, these dreams. You maybe sometimes uh sometimes we're brought up into your mind space, and maybe skip them, or maybe took a look at them, but it starts with sparks, and then these sparks can help you create that fire, and that fire, uh, constantly working it, and allowing it to build like along this contemplation. It brings up your culture, right? Like these people that's meant to be around you, these people who you are meant to sit with at the table. There's that showing up, and I'm so very glad for you, Cheryl, that you have noticed this synchronicity, because that's what starts to show. And yeah, well, that helps you bring up your culture around, and these people that are here to support your journey and to serve along with. And this also, the whole call has brought up to me the sphere of attraction too, like really hard, about the focus on prosperity, and how like we reach the core stability with activation sequence, and then we have the opportunity to choose, right? To choose, we have this millisecond, this little time to, as Jan said, to step back and make a step back and hear, observe, and then feel the body, and then choose if we are going, if we are heading to our Dharma, or we're just uh, going the other way, and maybe waiting for another opportunity to come back to go and step towards that Dharma, right?
Totally. Yeah, that meditation, I believe, is in the pathway of initiative. If you have the
That's
Pearl
right.
Sequence online course, I think that's kind of where that lives. And Richard, in that meditation, yeah, likens taking initiative to creating fire, learning how to create fire. And he actually tells a story of how he actually learned to create fire in his life, and like how much that really deeply affected him. Like there's just something about the being able to make that from nothing without any tools, just with things that is in your environment. Like that's basically what is being asked of us, right? Like that's the metaphor, is we've got to understand how we make our version of fire with what the universe has put into our lap. That's the name of the game. And to make fire, you've got to gather the materials, you've got to build the knowledge to know how to do it. The external conditions have to be right. All of these things need to happen, but that doesn't stop the fact that you got to go and gather the wood, and you got to learn the skills. And so you got to do that part of it. Even if it's a rainy day outside, doesn't matter. You still got to go and do that part so that when the sun comes out and things dry out, we have the ability to do this work. And then he also, I believe it's in that same meditation, also talks about Prometheus and talks about stealing fire from the gods, and kind of like the cheeky nature of what it takes to be a rebel, to be an outlaw, to be an individual, to be a creative, to make your own way in the world. Like, that's why he talks about that Prometheus myth and stealing fire from the gods. It's a good meditation. Thanks for that reminder, Juan. I was thinking about, while I was on time, I was kind of looking at a couple of tools that I've had throughout the years, and just kind of help you guys on time a little bit, because this is something that I see over and over again. Sorry, my monitor is blocked by my other monitor. There's a really simple thing that you can do, which is to just make sure, or I encourage you to take some time to write down your weekly anchors. Meaning, what are the things that happen each week that I know that I need to do, that I look forward to doing, that are consistent and bring joy to my life? And use those things as the anchor of your calendar, of your schedule, as you think about writing down your time. But there's a lot to just being able to get out of the working memory, the RAM of your brain, those recurring tasks, and to just write them down so that you see them. And then you can start to place them in different places. And if you're somebody who keeps a schedule, cool, you can put it on the schedule. If not, it's helpful to just have a list, and you can just fit it in wherever it fits. And then also doing this for monthly. So what are the things that each month, come back and that you're going to have to pay attention to, or that you want to pay attention to? And then same yearly, right? Like, what are the things that I need to do once a year? And you should really only have like a handful of monthly things and a handful of yearly things, really a handful of all of them. And then once we have those, then from there, the next step is to kind of structure your days. So if you're not somebody that has types of days, I cannot tell you how helpful that practice or process is. And what I mean by types of days is like, you've got a deep work day where there's no meetings, there's nobody that can get to you, and you're just able to do like deep creative work that day. And then maybe you've got tactical days, which those are your meeting days, or the days that you're working with your team, or you're putting out the fires, basically. Then we've got like big picture days where we're doing our planning time and thinking ahead. And then most importantly, I would say, is we've got renewal days, the days that we're just focusing on ourselves and bringing ourselves back to life. That process can be really helpful. And so if you're somebody that has a repeating schedule, you can map out what days are what. That's nice. Or like me, I just they rotate based on my week, but I try and fit each of those kind of things in, because what I realized is that the difference, and it's interesting, this comes from Richard saying 99% commitment is no different from 1% commitment. And that brought the idea into my brain of having your brain being 1% on is no different than having your brain be 99% on. In other words, if it's on, you're not able to fully drop down into rest and digest into your parasympathetic nervous system. There's a part of you in your amygdala that's constantly looking out for the next trouble to come, or the next thing that you're going to have to deal with. And so you're never able to fully down regulate. So that's another really important piece, is having these times so that we can fully down regulate in our lives. That was it that I had on the time front. There's another piece, and this all makes a lot more sense when there's a bunch of spreadsheets involved, but I don't really feel like digging into that with you guys right now. I'll just give you those top level ideas. Yeah, go ahead, Sonia.
So I don't know if this has anything to do with Keisha, but she so with 15 with 15, I have 15 twice, I think, like her, and that's my pearl and the radiance. And I wanted to a bit speak to the dullness, because I see I'm experiencing it in two ways, like in the way that you're saying, like doing the same thing over and over again, and I definitely can connect with that, especially since in this goal of completing this book and doing the same thing over, like cleaning the house, going to work, feeding the cats, like, and the dullness of that, and getting agitated that I'm not doing what I need to do or what I want to do, or because I have that goal in mind and this is occurring, I get agitated in this reoccurring because I'm not doing that. So there's that dullness, but there's the other side that I had experienced when I was in a mass depression and in the dark night of the soul, and that was for a year, in which I couldn't do anything more really than sit on my couch. And I was in constant meditation. I had discovered meditation from being in a dark night of soul. And that was the only thing, after trying psychiatry, drugs, or they prescribed the drugs, nothing that worked. It was the only thing that was starting to give me relief, which is why I kept with it, was meditation. And in 6 months of regular, everyday, 4 to 5 times a day meditation, the thought came to me, because when I would go to work that week, barely, people would on Mondays would talk about their weekends and how they were skateboarding, kiting, whatever. They went to Italy. Like, they would talk about all the things they did. And I did nothing in my mind. All I did was sit in meditation pretty much all weekend. If I would make it to the bathroom, that was a real big ordeal for me. And I would think, oh, my life is so dull. And when it rained, I was never so happy. I was so happy when it rained, because the pressure of thinking that I had to do something was relieved. That I could just sit there and give myself permission to just sit there because it was raining. And so that was a type of dullness. But that dullness led to a direct communication with God. Eventually that opened up. So I'm like, it's like two different dullnesses in a way. Like, it's like, which is the dullness that he's referring to? Because that was dullness, but not what I realized. One of the epiphanies that came, there's so many revelations that I was given, and one was, people are so busy busying their days or making sure they have these things to do on the weekend or going places, because really it's just an escape from being with God. And that not to be like I was better, like, but I was doing the only one thing that was needed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for all of us, was just to sit
Mm-hmm.
and be with God.
Beautiful.
I don't know why I felt I needed to say that.
That's perfect. It's the truth. And it's every single desire that we have. When you actually get to the root of the desire, is a desire for reunion with God. Every single one. They're all just, we think we're filling a hole that's going to give us a certain feeling. And it might for a brief period of time. But the only way to actually sustain that feeling is to be in relationship with the universe, to be in relationship with God. That's it. And there's a sentence in the 15th gene key that I think really speaks to exactly what you were talking about, Sonia, these two different types of dullness. And really I love this 15th gene key because it highlights the spectrum of consciousness. It highlights the fact that this isn't a polarity. It's not like a bad thing in the shadow and a good thing in the city. It just maps out the different frequency bands in the 15th. And it helps us to see that every single shadow is a shadow simply because our consciousness is locked into a certain frequency and sees it that way. But if your consciousness was at a different frequency, you would see the thing that is happening to you in a completely different light. And so the sentence here comes from page 104. It's about halfway down the page. It's in the shadow of the 15th gene key. And what Richard says is, in short, your attitude denotes how consciousness is using your awareness at any given moment. It is the membrane that links the macrocosm to the microcosm to the macrocosm. And it is how DNA programs and is programmed by the environment. It is a natural response to life, and its prime directive seems to consist of only one thing: growth. And then he goes on to say, no human can escape the dullness of existence. In other words, dullness is a reality, right? Like, it's part of being human. It is true that life, life does indeed consist of endless repeating patterns and rhythms. Like, that's a reality. But where our awareness is determines if we get lost in those endless patterns or if we can find like the beauty and the joy and the just deep gifts from God and everything that happens. Dullness is neither the top nor bottom of a spectrum. It is actually right in the middle where there is no polarity at all. And herein lies the rub. Polarity is never dull, right? So if you are really, really suffering, that is not dull. If you are really, really excited and happy, that is not dull. So it's not a negative. It's not the bad stuff that causes the dullness. It's this numbness and awareness. And it's the numbness and awareness that leads to perceiving all of the other shadows. Because as soon as that thing comes back alive in you, we can't help but see the gifts. Yeah, I think I'll leave that there. Keisha, please.
Thank you, Sonia, for sharing that. That was beautiful. I just want to say like that. I love that because it so perfectly describes actually embracing the shadow and not just accepting it, but truly embracing it and allowing for that magnetism with God to actually happen. And then the city of fluorescence, it's like, I can tell when you were talking about your daily feeding the cats and cleaning the house and this whole thing, that this repetitive thing, it's like, I blow glass and I have 5 things that I make, and I make them by the hundreds, 100 of them at a time. And I'm a glass blower. Like, I'm working with light and this incredible material. I've been doing this for 27 years. And so I've circled around my career to this, what could be labeled as a very dull place, because this is not how I worked in the beginning of my career. But now I am working like a machine. But what has happened in working so repetitively physically in my world, in my work, has that work, that type of work occupies my left brain enough so that I can travel so deeply into my imagination and my right brain, because it's like my, like the not burning myself and all of the things is just occupying my left brain just enough. And so that dullness has opened up this whole new possibility for me to travel so far more into my right brain, it's the same thing as like, never would I have ever imagined that tracking, like Jay said, like every minute of my day would open up this whole new freedom. When I have actually accomplished those things, I don't have to think about them anymore. And so it's the opposite, like you were saying, Sonia. It's like these two different kinds of dullness that are it is the perfect embracing the truly embracing the shadow. So that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. This dullness is also a really good opportunity to like see how simple it can be to shift out of the shadow frequency. So like dullness, we've all got to go to the grocery store and get some food. It's like part of being human, part of being alive. And you can do that in such a way that you're like scrambling, trying to make a list as fast as you can, looking through the fridge, seeing what you got, running to the store, trying to get it all in, being frustrated with the person in front of you that's taking forever to get their credit card out, frustrated with the cashier that's taking so long to get the items done. Or you could go there and you could go to the pasta aisle and you could leave your cart at the end of the aisle and you could grab a box of pasta and see how many boxes it takes for you to actually toss this thing in from 8 feet away and get it to land in the shopping cart. And then you could go to the next thing and try it from 9 feet away, and then the next thing and try it from 10 feet away. Or you can go and you can start a conversation with the person that's putting the apples out and learn about them and see where they came from in their lives and see why they're working at the grocery store. Or, yeah, go ahead, Sonia.
That energy that you're talking about, I was experiencing when the other day I had actually sat down and finished one section of my book. And I got a section where I thought, wow, that's actually pretty good. And I was so excited about it. I was in that energy that you're talking about. And I thought, oh, this is how you have incredible relationships and love life, because I was what I think is doing my dharma or working towards that or in it and accomplishing something that I said I was going to do, which is from the heart. And when you do that, you feel good in yourself. You're aligned with your soul, and because you're aligned with your soul, you're in joy, and because you're in joy, everything is joyful.
And then you're magnetic.
Yeah. And so exactly. And so everything you were saying, like throwing the box, you don't even think about that. You're not even thinking about that game. You just are that game. Like I was like that I was jumping around with my cats. I was like, I couldn't help but be that. I was crazy, but I was out of my mind, because I was in that joy. And I realized, I said, oh my gosh, this is the key to everything.
Yeah. How can I make it fun? How can I make it different?
Not even. I wasn't even thinking. Like I wasn't, because I was in the frequency of having done in my alignment and created that, like whatever we're all talking about during our dharma, that I was actually in it. It was like in me, and like it doesn't matter what Jeff says. It doesn't matter what Jeff does. It doesn't matter what I do with Jeff. It doesn't matter if I don't do anything with Jeff. Like Jeff is great. Like everything is great. Because because there's enjoy, just doing your Dharma, I feel brings you into joy. So you are joy, and then everything is joyful.
Mhm. And then people can't resist that. People want to be around that. Like, look at the world right now.
My cats wanted to be around that.
Exactly. You got it. This is what it's all about. Salima, I saw your hand up, my dear. Did you still have something?
I remember we talked about dullness and soul related stuff. And I remember now I was 18 years old and I had a job, my first job, and I took the same road to my job. And I thought about 1 month. Oh my dear, is this going to work for the rest of my life? And that was the start. So looking back, I know it was already inside me. So I looked at life differently. So how to follow my intuition, to follow the leads, to follow life as it comes. And about dullness, I found a quote when it's in Dutch. When every day looks alike, that's because you don't see the good things. So just as simple, and then I started to focus on the different, I still took the same route to my work, but I look differently.
Mhm.
And anyway, I got another job, but dullness is for me a sign I lost my ability to look different at things. So and always like also Krista, I'm from an older age. Looking back at the moment I have dived deep into something and I learned from it and I integrated it. Another thing came. It just came. And I can just say, just trust the system. I didn't know about the Gene Keys. I had a life before Gene Keys. And life taught me, life guided me. So if we are in the beginning of Gene Keys, it doesn't matter. Life is here and life is teaching us. Just by a little quote, like this one, look at good things. Like washing the dishes. I wrote a simple thing about washing the dishes. Giving attention to what you're doing. And of course, there are moments of not ecstasy or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's a part of life. And I relax in this. I just relax in this and try to look different. But I wanted to talk about this before Sonja enthusiastic finished her story. Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
perfect, Salima. Yeah, I mean, look, if you go and lay out in your yard or garden, wherever you are in the world, whatever word you have for the grassy stuff that's outside of your house, go out there and just look at what's happening in the grass. There's a whole crazy world happening in there that will blow your mind. Like, there's so much going on. There's like all sorts of bugs and critters and weird little micro plants and just crazy stuff. And like, that's the kind of thing that we're encouraging you to do, is to like find those pockets of life. Like, one of the things, I think it's in the 15 that Richard says, is like, there's enough within a half a mile of your house to keep you occupied for life. It's just all about your awareness. The Dutch word is, how do you say it? Tuin?
Which word? Or the garden, tuin. Yeah.
Tuin. Yeah, tuin.
Tuin.
Like time? Like
Nee, tuin. Tuin.
Oh boy, that's a tough one.
Forget it. I just want to say something, because this is very important to me, and I'm growing in this. I look at my profile, and I knew myself before looking at knowing about the profile. But one thing struck me, and it's also had to do with the subject today. My mission is to fall in love with God. Oh dear, it's a few words, but and simplicity, to find distinct simplicity and fall in love with God. And it feels, yes, this is it, but our conception about God, our conception about simplicity, that's my personal journey. But it has to do with dullness. I need to look at when I touch the good things of life, time disappear, I disappear, I feel alive again. Just in simple things. For example, today I went to a garden where you can pick flowers, and I just want to make pictures. And somehow I had it for many years. Somehow I forget time. I really forget time. And afterwards, I look at the pictures on my screen, and I think, wow. Simple flowers, wow. And time just disappears. And that's for me a sign of eternity, a sign of joy. I don't even think about joy. I don't even think about time. But that's my sign I'm on the path that's suited to me. Not particularly books or words, but this kind of simple grass, flowers, butterflies. It doesn't matter. This is falling in love with this kind of stuff. Difficult to put it into words, but that's my mission. Oh boy.
You did a good job.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Yeah, I really feel like this call in particular had a lot of embodied wisdom in it. A lot of people talking from a place of knowing something, having been on the other side of something, and being able to speak back into that, into those who are still not quite believing that it's going to work. But we've got Salima on this call. We've got Krista on this call, who both beautifully spoke into the simple nature of this game that we're playing, which is really and truly, how can I bring as much joy to the world as is humanly possible for myself and everyone else around me? Like, because it's through that joy that people are going to remember God. It's through that joy that people are going to be able to relax in their nervous system, and then they're going to be able to start doing the things that they actually know they're here to do, instead of doing the things that they think they need to do to survive. It all starts with the joy. Everything else will flow from that. Any closing thoughts, parting shots from anyone? George, do you want to speak into your video at all, my friend?
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for the sort of the coaching and just allowing me to feel everything that converged for that present moment, sort of activation of me just sort of getting out of my own way. And then looking at like a profile based on the present moment and seeing that the 52-2 was my attraction sphere, but it was in the IQ, all these little kisses from the universe. And it's just allowing me to trust more that, this embodiment is something that just, I can't take for granted, and it's just like, just almost like the just do it phrase. And it just, it sort of allows me to just cherish each present moment as a gift. So, and being here, thank you everyone for your shares and the dullness, not dullness. I love this deep dive into the divine. I always say the shadows are divine shadows. And if we just keep showing up and allowing ourselves to feel the grace of the present moment. So thank you for the grace of this present moment. And thank you, Jay, for everything you've done.
Yeah, brother. You're welcome. Proud of you, man. Good job. Congrats. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting too. When you fully give yourself over to the dullness, a lot of times that's where the moment of ecstasy comes, which is interesting. It's like a wormhole in the other direction. Okay. Thank you all for being here as always. Call wise, I am considering alternating back and forth. It feels heavy on the weeks that we have the synergy call and this call feels like a lot. So I think what I'm going to do is alternate. So a wisdom call every other Thursday, synergy call every other Monday. So it'll still be a call every week. It'll just be 1 week will be more on the business side of the house, which, as I said, I'm telling you, these are the same freaking thing. We're going to talk about the same stuff in both the calls, but nonetheless, business focus every other Monday and wisdom call, Gene Keys, esoteric focus every other Thursday, and they'll be offset. So we will still have a wisdom call next week because there's not a synergy call next week. And then the week after that, there will be a synergy call, but no wisdom call. And we'll kind of carry forward in that way. Lastly, we're halfway through on the Bolt now. We're 4 weeks in, 4 weeks to go. So I am contemplating what is coming next on my end. And what I am putting together is some stuff more on the business side. I've got a couple of people that have reached out to me that we're trying to figure out the best format and structure for this. So if you are somebody that's digging in on the businessy side a little bit more, shoot me a message and I'll keep you in the loop on what's happening there. And or I'm sure there will be more coming out about it too. So, okay. Thanks, y'all. We'll see you soon. Lots of love.